But I want to thank Jeannie for bringing us all together tonight. And please give her a round of applause, first and foremost. I threatened to come up with a bunch of Democratic jokes tonight. But that's, one, this isn't the Al Smith dinner, and two, I don't have a teleprompter, so we're safe. Um, but I just want to say Jeannie has been a stalwart, in my opinion, of common sense and making sure that people do not forget, like I try not to let them forget, where the middle is, where common sense is. And we truly need to have more champions like that in all spheres. So thank you, and thank you to everybody who is following in that footsteps. I'm honored to join tonight's discussion, and I want to say to the McCann family, to hear of the tragedy that has befallen you is something that I think nobody should ever have to go through. And hopefully, discussions like this here and around this country bring back some sanity to what really has been, a question of not just immigration, but the border. And what are we really talking about? Because as we were here earlier preparing and sitting with Sarah, you know, is this an issue of immigration as people try to make it? Or is this about enforcing the law, setting the standard, accepting our sovereign national identity and our ability to protect our sovereignty? Is that what we're discussing? Or are we trying to conflate that with immigration and allowing everyone just to come in without question? We know that there are some people who share my political persuasion who try to say that the border should be open for all, welcome for all, and we'll ask questions later. That is wrong, it is dangerous, and it's illegal. And I will tell you that I am the only Democrat when Joe Biden was seeking reelection who said no to endorsing him and Kamala Harris for reelection for what they did to Chicago and to every city across this country. Now, make no mistake, I know where my family comes from and I know how they got here. I'm a third generation American, but that fourth generation, they were something. But they came here without papers. They came here almost 100 years ago in pursuit of a better life, the American dream, even then, of something better. And I think America should always be welcoming to those who love this country, love what it stands for, want to be a part of that positive fabric that is this great American experiment. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. To be perfectly honest, what we've seen under the Biden and Harris administration is rather than fix the front door, they've gleefully opened up the back window and said, this is how we're going to get people in. And they didn't do that just at the expense of Americans. They did that in the face of 4 decades of undocumented individuals who've been waiting for real pathways to citizenship ever since Ronald Reagan granted amnesty in the 1980s. You cannot turn to all of the millions that are here waiting for a legitimacy to their ability to be here and say, now you have to wait because we want to grant asylum to 13 million people. 13 million people we have no intention of vetting. 13 million people we have no intention of tracking. And now, thanks to the Supreme Court, 13 million people we will never separate from their American-born children. We know what you just did to us. We know what you just did to this country, and you did it without even trying to deny it because you've celebrated that fact. And that is why we have so many individuals across all stripes, across all backgrounds, whether they are third generation or first generation, demanding something better out of this country, out of this administration, and out of the federal government, which should first and foremost know the difference between those who you welcome and those who are just here. If we are to truly address these issues that are in front of us, not just in Chicago, but across the entire country, there's some things that we need to get straight, which is, do we believe in having a front door that works? Do we believe that both parties need to make that a priority so that they stop making our own national identity a partisan issue? Because there are people who want to be a part of America, and there are people who just want to do their own thing while in America. That's not what I signed up for. That's not what my family signed up for. And I'm sure it's what most of your families didn't sign up for. What I like to call them, that is the unexpected, extraneous variances to the great American experiment. Because none of our founding fathers, nobody envisioned anything that we're talking about to this point. And what we see, and why I'm glad there's so many persons of faith in this room tonight, is that we see a corruption of faith to justify so often what's going on. We see individuals who start cherry picking from the Bible what it says and what it means to be welcoming to the stranger. But that manipulation will not stand. That manipulation is actually an abdication of our responsibility as leaders, whether it's civil or in faith. I'm very fortunate the other day, actually at an event with Pastor Shando Valdez, who's right over there, to have met a Dr. James Hoffmeyer, who wrote a book, The Immigration Crisis. And there was a pre-book that he provided us called The Wise Welcome. And it talks about how we can have discussions and how we can welcome smartly based on faith, based on our values, our Judeo-Christian values that the country was founded upon. And I think that is where we need to get back to basics and address. Because no matter Democrat, Republican, well, I would hope Democrat, mostly Democrats and Republicans, left, right, whatever, all of us have some semblance of faith that roots our decisions. And that's what we have to use to make the politics go away so that clarity of vision and purpose takes root. It shouldn't be a partisan issue to understand that we have to be able to protect our country, but also welcome people who want to do it the right way. That we should not give safe passage or sanctuary to individuals who clearly don't care about the laws here, even when they're here, and make very bad choices more times than not. We should be able to address those issues and can address those issues. But we can't allow the law to become paralyzed. We can't allow government to stop functioning because that is when justice dies. And right now, the American experiment's justice is dying because we are turning a blind eye to what's going on. I'm here tonight to let you know that this is not just a Republican issue. It should never have been a Republican issue. This should have been an American issue. And before Ginny gives me the hook, I will tell you that I believe ultimately this will be an American issue once again. Thanks to those who are at the borders or have been at the borders, thanks to those who've been reporting, like Sarah. What I meant to say was we actually ran into a young woman at 51st and Wentworth, if you're familiar in the city of Chicago, right off the Dan Ryan, at the heart of the immigration surges. And which, by the way, since that video, it's not 20,000, it's 50,000 now. But there were people that we had in tents. There were people that we had in sleeping bags on the street. And there was a woman who was 8.5 months pregnant, who the best we could do in America was put her in a tent surrounded by 40 single men. Our compassion can do better, but that also requires us to do better through adherence of the law. And that is what I think this discussion has been missing and why it's so important that we continue to have those discussions and not allow anyone to separate us from where the true goal is, which is to love America first, last, and always. Thank you, everybody.